Good morning, FightNGear here. Got just a real quick video. I tried to put a little more light in here. I got the shop light out of my garage. I'm going to get something so that my videos aren't quite so dark. But this is a real quick video on fit and retention. I got in 2 orders today where people supplied the guns. I do a lot of that locally. And I do that on guns that I don't get a lot of orders for. They're both good guns, a Beretta 92 and a Taurus P90, but they're just big enough guns I don't get many orders for them. I want to show you a couple of odd fits here. These are actually opposite ends of the spectrum. And the reason I do that, a lot of people, they email me back and they say, well, this gun didn't fit like I thought it would, or it doesn't have the retention I thought it would. It's funny. I get a half a dozen emails a day that say, man, this gun's a lot tighter than I thought, and another half a dozen that say this gun's a lot looser, and then fortunately a couple dozen that are perfect, and a lot of people that just never email me back. But anyway, I just wanted to show you a couple of things. The shape, the size, the weight of the gun, they're critical, and they make a huge difference in the retention and in the fit and the layout, where I have to put the gun on the holster backing so that it doesn't flop way out to the side or get in at such an angle that you just flat couldn't draw it. But I want to show you these two. Like I say, it's very interesting. They're completely opposite ends of the spectrum. And what I'm going to start with, I'm going to move up here close. I'm going to turn the other light on and show you. This is the Ruger P90. This gun, both guns are cleared. I cleared them before the video. Actually, I've checked them several times. On this gun, you notice there's a takedown pin right here that actually has to have a clearance cut into the holster. I actually have to hand Dremel that in. I have to then go back in because it has a particularly deep ejection cut out here. I actually have to go back in, soften that, and lighten that just a little bit. It has a very big square trigger guard. So what you end up with on a gun like this is you end up with a real positive click in and out. Sorry, it's hard for me to do that up here sideways like that, and the gun has very good, even though it's a heavy gun, it has very good retention in the holster. The opposite end of that is, and again I'm going to double check the firearm just to show that it is clear. I have the Beretta, which the Taurus is of similar shape and construction, so it also falls into this category. This is the 92, and as you can see, there is no cutout per se ejection port. There's the back of the slide is cut. There is no front. There's no top strap on the slide. What that does is it does not give you this very positive retention point. So with this gun, after I mold it, I have to go in and again hand mold the trigger guard in tighter, and on the frame right here there's also a disassembly pin on the back, and I have to use it. Even doing that, as you can see, this gun has retention, but it is nowhere near as positive as the Ruger. When I was putting it in a while ago, I caught that on the safeties. What that was up here on the leather is why that had trouble going in. Both guns have a very nice clearance for draw because they're larger guns. Now that is a problem that I run into with real small guns. People send me 380s and I either have to put them low enough that it's centered well, or high enough that there's a good purchase. And what you end up with that is, over a period of time, as you learn a balance point on those, where you can get them both ways. Now, as you can see on this gun, with the firearm in a cocked position, there's actually a bit of trigger showing. There's not when the hammer's down in the typical carry position. But like I say, very specific on both of these. And to get these into the right place where there's no gun hanging below the pad or above the pad, where the balance point with the belt will allow the gun to set deep enough to keep it from flopping out like this and printing, and yet not so deep that you couldn't get in there to draw the gun because of your belt. You wouldn't want your belt way up here like this where you weren't able to make a draw. And at the same time, you have to keep the forward cant specific to the model of gun. Some guns need a little more, some guns need a little less. It's typically right around 10 degrees. I actually have a layout on my mold table that shows me where to put them for the specific models. But these are things that I want you to understand, because like I say, I don't want anybody to ever order a gun from me and be disappointed with it. Or I'm sorry, order a holster from me for their gun and be disappointed with it. But those are things that you need to understand are going to come into play. And certain models of guns are going to fit different. They're going to have different retention levels, different angles, and they're going to be consistent gun to gun. If I send out 5 709 slim holsters, they're all going to be positioned the same. They're going to have the retention the same. I say the same, 95% the same, 97%. I mean, I do these by hand, so you know, I'm not a machine in China, and I can't get each one 100% identical, but they're extremely close. On the other hand, when you have, like I say, a gun like this where the holster ends up being so much hand fitted towards the end, there's going to be a little more variance. And like I say, also one of the things that I do run into occasionally, although not much, is there is a slight variance frame to frame on guns, and even when I mold, say this gun for instance, off of this frame, if I send this out and this guy had say 5 of these guns, one may fit slightly tighter, one slightly looser. Now the variance there is going to be extremely minor. But the human hand has a good sense of feel, and you actually, I mean, you may notice that one gun draws a little better or a little worse than the other one. So anyway, I'm going to get off here. I really appreciate the business. It's been phenomenal here lately. I assume part of that's the political climate. Also, I've been advertising my product a little heavier. I've picked up some other forms of advertising. If you have bought one of mine and like it, man, I'd appreciate it if you'd share the information with your friends. If you have bought one of my holsters and you don't like it, I'd appreciate it if you'd share that with me and see if we can't get something worked out where you're happy. If you see my videos, I would appreciate it if you'd pass those around. I'm on Facebook now, FightNGear Holsters, and I'd appreciate it if you'd shoot me a friend request and like my stuff, help me get the word out that way. I really am interested in trying to grow a little bit now. This has always kind of been a hobby, and I'm thinking of pursuing it as a business. So anyway, or a full-time business, I mean. Anyway, I really appreciate the support, and like I say, I'm going to get off here. Thanks a lot.